Hey, and welcome back to the Rad Hyrox podcast. Today we are joined by Danny Ray. He's started an Instagram page to record his Hyrox journey, and it's been an incredible journey, especially this weekend or last weekend, I think it was at Berlin. He is a serving soldier and a PTI in the military, and we found him by following his fiancee Zoe Hague's vlogs and following his story, which has been great. So we want to know a little bit more about it. Thanks for joining us, Danny.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me on.
Oh, no problem. It's great to have you. But before we get too much into Berlin and asking you all about Hyrox, we wanted to take it back and find out if you did sports growing up and if you always knew that you wanted to be in the military.
Yeah, great question. So I always played football growing up. I wasn't particularly good at any of the sport apart from football. I was a one-trick pony. But joining the military was that was from an early age. My dad served. He did a full 22 years, full career. So I'd basically seen what his lifestyle was like. And that was kind of a no-brainer. It was going to be either as an officer or as another rank. And ultimately, I took the decision to join early. But yeah, no looking back. I love it.
And what about fitness in the military? It's obviously a big thing. So do you think that's kind of helped because it's always been in your life for you getting into Hyrox?
Yeah, so even just before joining the army and having to turn up and even get in past fitness tests and stuff, that's kind of when the fitness journey started, really, because before that it was just football. And joining at a young age, they slowly but surely kind of build you up, and it takes a number of years, but it's definitely inadvertently helped me for Hyrox. Years of structured, progressive strength and conditioning, endurance type sessions where you're on your feet for more than just a couple of hours. So it's definitely played a part. But now, sort of for the last 12 months of this fitness journey, it's geared towards me being able to do my job effectively, but also specific training to Hyrox, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah, totally. And I know just from my experience of being in the military, but in the army, you can't join directly as a PT, can you? You have to join as something else to go as a PT. So what did you join as at the beginning before you transitioned over and became an army PT?
So I'm still actually in my original regiment, the Light Dragoons.
Okay.
I did about 6 months before the chain of command were like, okay, this guy's fit, let's go send him on a PTI course. So I've been a PTI in my regiment for about 8-9 years now.
Oh, cool.
And I'm still doing the same job. I just supplement that by taking the PT sort of 3 to 4 times a week on the side of it.
Oh, happy days. So you do a bit of both.
Yeah, it's the best balance.
That is a cool balance. And what does everyone think now you're into your Hyrox? Have you started to get them running more and sled pushing and pulling, or have your PT sessions changed?
I would say they've changed slightly. Well, this week in particular. So me and Zoe are taking part or hosting an event this weekend for My Protein on Saturday. So this week, my squadron have been the guinea pigs for some session ideas that we're going to host. So yeah, they're sick of burpees, but they are enjoying it. And to be honest, they're always asking questions, probably because I don't stop talking about it, to be fair. But very interested.
Yeah, totally. So in the military then, I don't know, I've still got a lot of friends that are in the Air Force, and a lot of them are coming over and doing Hyrox, and a lot of them have reached out to us about Hyrox whilst they're serving, saying what's the best way to train, because I don't know how much are military personnel aware of it. With you at Catterick, is there a lot of people aware of Hyrox? Because I feel like it's a really good event for military personnel. I mean, you do so much running and body weight exercises, and there's a lot of CrossFit gyms and functional fitness in the military now. So is that crossover coming? Are people looking to do Hyrox events, or do you think it's still growing?
I would agree, absolutely. So I went to a British Army, a warrior fitness event yesterday. I don't know if the RAF have an equivalent, but that's their functional fitness competition. And I turned up yesterday, and even at that event, the amount of Hyrox bags and patches I've seen, I was like, wow, I'm not the only one in the army that does it. So it's definitely catching on, and hopefully that's the case, because we both know there is a lot of fit people in the army out there that would do really well in the sport, or in the military in general, sorry.
Yeah, definitely. I know. I think it's cool to see like what the crossover will be, and if people are going to start taking it on, or whether they're just fed up of people like you running them around in circles and trying out sessions on them that they don't want to do it when they
Yeah.
finish work.
Yeah. Also, a lot of people are like, well, if Danny can do it in like a sub hour, then surely, you know, I'm not far off. It's like, go and try it first. See what it's like to run after doing those sleds, and then, you know, you might have a different view of it, and then recognize the amount of training that needs to go into getting specific with it.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. And I wonder, how did you first hear about it? Like, where did it come from for you to first sign up and do your first race? It was it Dublin? Is that right?
So my first race was with Zoe in Warsaw, mixed doubles, and
Oh,
basically
cool.
Zoe was like, she kept telling me about it, but for some reason I wasn't really entertaining the idea. I was away in Kenya at the time, and I was getting really good at running because of the altitude. And all I was focused on was coming back and hitting some like 5K, 10K PBs. But Zoe was like, there's this event called Hyrox. Come and have a look. My old boss from work, which is Aaron Woodman, who is probably one of the fastest guys in the UK at Hyrox. She was like, come and watch him and just see what you think. And I watched it and I got instant FOMO. This was in Manchester World Champs, you know, indoors, DJ, loads of fit athletes, atmosphere was amazing. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is a bit of me. I agree with you, Zoe. We should go and do this. So we went to Warsaw. We did mixed doubles. It was perfect, to be fair, breaking into it over that part of Europe, because it's still picking up and growing. Like in the UK, it is like, wow, in your face, so much going on. In Europe, they're still catching up. So Warsaw was a great first event for us. And as soon as we crossed the finish line and we felt how it was like, okay, yeah, we love it. This is addictive. When's the next one? But you know, we need to focus training now.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I think it's nice to go into it as well, like you say, when it's maybe a bit of a calmer, quieter race. Like London and Manchester, I mean, they're quite chaotic. Like it's so busy, especially on the laps. So it's probably not nice to kind of break in a bit easier. And then when did you decide to go and hit it yourself and do a solo race?
So Dublin was always the first race we had booked. And that's what we was working towards. And then slowly but surely we thought maybe we should go and do a doubles. And then after I did a doubles, I was like, okay, that was amazing. I need to do another one. So then we did Copenhagen about 4 weeks later.
Nice.
That was after first getting a coach. And then Birmingham came along. It's like, we can't not do the first UK event. So then we did Birmingham as well. But yeah, amazing.
Oh, there's so many, isn't there? You just, and then it's like you say, when you get in, you get hooked. You're like, okay, which one next? Like, I want to do more.
Yeah, 100%. But you can also, like, as I was saying with Poland, where at Warsaw, where it was a bit quieter, going fast forward to Birmingham, where it was like, you know, quadruple the amount of people there, you kind of get dragged into the hype and the excitement. Which if people go and do these UK events as their first event, it's amazing. But like for myself, I got sucked right in there, and that race was long and hard because I just shot off like a cannon.
Went out hard at the beginning and tried to hold on.
Failed miserably.
So you did so your story then, like on your Instagram page, which we've been following, is you did your 1:17 in Dublin, but this at the most recent event that you just did in Berlin, you got 58 minutes and 10 seconds. That is a huge like PB. So
Yeah.
Talk us through what you did to take that much time off your solo race.
Yeah, so there's definitely a few variables with this one. So Dublin was 1:17. The course was, I don't know if you remember, it was longer. So a lot of people added about 5 minutes to their run time. So for argument's sake, say, you know, maybe I would have got, you know, closer to the 1:10, 1:12 mark. But I also did a lot of racing before that, and I was cramming in racing and training in the lead up to Dublin, which didn't really help either. But essentially, to get that amount of time off was focus training, with a view of not trying to get quick really fast, if that makes sense. When I used to train myself and do all my own kind of programming, I used to do such high intensity workouts that I wasn't able to maintain the volume for a long duration of time. Yeah. But then I took the advice of a coach, Dan, who we've been working together since August, and you know, at the start of the training program, I was always thinking, I'm ready to give a bit more. I'm ready to give a bit more in training each day. But what we ended up having was volume over time. So although I'm ready to give more in the gym on that day, it's great because tomorrow I'm going to be fresh and ready to train, and I'm not needing to take rest days more frequently. So really trusted the process with that. Lots of aerobic conditioning and engine work, getting used to working for a long period of time, not at high intensity all the time, you know, because you just get injured, but keeping their intensity nice and low. So I'd say that was the big one, having a coach who really knows what they're doing. And then the second thing was just getting my body in more performance shape. So I was about 92, 93 kg in Dublin. And now I'm down to about 85. So that's a lot of excess weight that I was carrying that wasn't actually adding value to my overall performance. That was the big factor. So I would say the accountability and coaching for 6 months, which is still ongoing, and dropping the weight, which I'm still trying to go down a bit more to shave those precious seconds off.
Yeah, definitely. And have you done that as a mix of like, have you consciously tried to lose weight, or have you done it, has it just happened through the, like, you know, your training and just maybe being a bit more aware of your nutrition, or what's?
I would say Dublin and Birmingham, those 2 races were like a big eye opener for me in terms of, if I want to be good at this, then I need to start focusing on nutrition, because it wasn't something I looked at before. Like being in the military, I got away with performing to a high standard at my job with, you know, not looking at my diet too much. But then you cross that over into a, you know, a fitness race where people do look at nutrition. I needed to then up my game, and I went away for 4 months with work, and that was a good opportunity to train and dial in the nutrition and not drink alcohol as frequently, because obviously that can be quite a big part of military life. So yeah, I've now definitely got a focus on nutrition in terms of the performance side. I could do with getting a little bit leaner, as I said, so I'm currently ongoing with that at the minute.
Yeah,
and
it's
how
super
do you,
impressive.
yeah, how do you find like balancing everything? Because you just mentioned there that you're away for 4 months. Is that like, do you often have to be away and then find it maybe a bit more challenging to fit in training, or does that open up an opportunity for more training or better training? I mean, like you said, altitude training was probably perfect, but is it quite difficult to have the routine and follow the training when maybe your schedule isn't always set?
I would say the old me would have gone 100%. Yeah, you know, I can't make time to go and train because I've got this job to do or that job to do. But now what I recognize, you know, I would say 90% of the time in the military, there is an opportunity to train. And when I went away for 4 months, although I couldn't really go out running, in fact, I couldn't go running for about 2 months, I could train every single day. Other times, you know, I might be on exercise for 4 weeks in the field, you know, living outdoors. I won't be able to train then, and I won't really be able to dial in the nutrition. But that happens, you know, once in a blue moon, once, twice a year tops. But yeah, like in terms of actual training opportunities, it's our job to be fit. And it just took me a while to realize that with a good bit of time management and a bit of sacrifice here and there, there is plenty of time to get it done for sure. And we have the best facilities to do it. So yeah.
And you've shared that like the last few days on your stories. I mean, I know you said about the fitness competition you did, and you obviously showed like some of the facilities that you have available to you, and like, yeah, it's incredible, really. You think how much people pay for gym access and like gym memberships, and what you can have on your doorstep if you're in the military. It's
literally on my doorstep as well. I have like 30 seconds to the gym. It's too easy.
But I think that's interesting as well. You've mentioned about how the old you maybe wouldn't see it that way. So obviously your mindset's shifted now that you have this goal and this focus. And how much do you think mindset plays a part in Hyrox and training? And is there anything you do that's helped you train I mean, you've obviously got mental resilience. I think being out on exercise for 4 weeks and the job that you do, like you're going to have mental strength. But is there anything you do to help that and improve that?
It's being focused on the end goal. So when I first did Hyrox, I'm like, I've always been, you know, and it sounds really bad me saying, it's like in the sort of top end percentile of your average athlete when it comes to competing at, say, a 10K or a sprint triathlon or maybe a local CrossFit event. But never, ever, ever have I been sort of, you know, closer to the top end for a long time. so then doing Hyrox, because it gives you a platform to showcase what you're good at and then highlight areas to improve. It kind of allowed me to sort of tunnel vision on the mindset aspect of like, if I want to get good at this, then I'm going to need to tweak these little bits here and fix these elements. And as I mentioned before, with like the sacrifice, you know, and the mindset piece, like in the military, social stuff is encouraged quite a lot, and sometimes it can be, you know, alcohol related stuff, and that really affected my training a lot before, and it was something that was quite a big part of my life, whereas now I'm quite content to still take part, but, you know, push the alcohol intake to one side and save that for the weekends, but, you know, really knuckle down Monday to Friday, and that's kind of made the difference, I would say.
Yeah, I think society's changing a bit like that as well anyway now. You know, more people are maybe meeting up at a gym and going and training as opposed to meeting up at a pub all the time. Like the way kind of the world's going, it's maybe not as, I don't want to say unusual, but like for someone to say, oh no, I'm okay, I don't want a drink, I'm training tomorrow, is probably a much more normal excuse now than it was like 10-15 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
So bringing us back to your performances then, talk us through Berlin, because Berlin was the first, we haven't spoke to anyone yet that competed there, and it was the first Hyrox where it had an outdoor running lap, and it was just one lap, wasn't it?
Yeah.
How did Berlin go? Talk us through your getting to the event itself, what you thought of the venue.
The venue was just unbelievable. So I remember actually some of the event organizers telling people off. They're like, you can't sit there. This is a historical venue, that kind of thing. Like, it's protected.
Oh, wow.
So already that kind of just like sets the tone that we, you know, we're racing in quite an incredible place. And then I told my dad about it actually. And he was like, oh, that's a really famous airport. It was used as a part of a relief effort in World War II and this kind of stuff. I was like, oh, wow, okay. But yeah, obviously outdoor race, lots of people skeptical. I know lots of people were kind of like, oh, do I want to go and do that and potentially have it rain and then affect my race? But ultimately, the race is the same for everybody. You know, if it's indoors, outdoors, it's got 5 laps or it's got 1 lap. So yeah, the fresh air made a big difference. Just the hype around it in general. Nice, smooth layout. Obviously, new equipment as well. But yeah, amazing. And the big thing with Hyrox is the atmosphere on indoors. That they absolutely match that. They match that, even though it was like semi-outdoors. It was still a fantastic atmosphere. If anything, it was better. It was probably one of the best events I've ever been to date, spectating or racing.
Oh, that's amazing. And you competed and Zoe competed as well, didn't she?
Yeah.
So whose was first? Which order did it come? Did you get to enjoy watching her, or did she get to enjoy watching you, or how were the nerves?
Yeah, so we was able to watch each other. Zoe was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I wasn't until 10 to 7.
Oh, that's quite late.
Yeah, as you know, it's a long day, isn't it, on your feet? There was a point where Zoe finished her race and then I was like, right, I need to go and sit down for a couple of hours because I've literally clocked 20,000 steps just by spectating.
Yeah.
So yeah, those pro races nice and late, and it presented a different challenge as well, like in terms of nutrition. I was like, what do I eat? Because I don't want to go into the race after eating, you know, so much food all day that I'm going to be 1 kilo, 2 kilos heavier. Because I was even thinking that might make the difference, but got it sussed out in the end. Bananas and energy gels and the big breakfast in the morning.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Not a Stein and a Frankfurter.
that was after.
That was after.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's coming up next? Future goals? You said you're racing mixed doubles in London, and then have you got anything lined up after that one?
Mixed doubles in London with Zoe, and then it will be the Nice World Champs. Interestingly enough, I know this sounds crazy, I was literally looking on my phone at flights to Anaheim, and you know, if it's worth just going over for the experience of being around the hype of like elite athletes who are really pushing for the elite 15. But yeah. I thought, don't be so silly, just give it a bit of time yet. Obviously Germany was so good for me, but I am not naive to recognize the fact that it was 1 lap and it was outdoors, and that made a substantial difference on running efficiency and just feeling okay on the stations.
Did you feel like you got, did that dry mouth feeling go because you were outside?
I never had it. I never had it.
That is pretty, because that is the one thing that I just can't stand.
I hate the dry mouth. As soon as I'm on an indoor event, I'm like, how am I got dry mouth? I've been hydrating you know,
Yeah.
so well.
And
But
you're in the start, you're on the start line and you're already like, oh no.
yeah, no, I never had it. And there was a common theme amongst, you know, Zoe and other athletes we were with was they felt like they could go again. I was like, I feel good, like I could keep going. And I acknowledge that as well. Like there was a point on the race where I just felt, you know, like you could keep that level of intensity going for a bit longer because of the fresh air and the cool temperature.
Yeah, it's
That's
really
so
interesting. Yeah. So I'm guessing the long-term goal then is to qualify for the Elite 15. Am I putting that out there? If you've mentioned Anaheim, but you're not naive, maybe playing a bit of a longer game.
I've took a substantial amount of time off with focused work, and I will continue to match the dedication and consistency that I've put in for the last 6 months. I know that guaranteed. Work will get in the way sometimes, but I'll do everything I can. I'm currently sat with my Berlin time 29th in the world, so 14th place off the Elite 15. Yes, it's new sleds. Yes, it was outdoors, but everything else across the board for me was quicker. You know, it's the same weight wall balls. It's the same weight for the lunges. Burpee distance didn't change. So all those little factors. And when I, you know, in my mind, when I go into the next race, I'll be like, well, I've hit those timings, so I can hit sub 4 minute wall balls on this race too. You know, nothing will change there. So I think it's more of like a mindset thing. Going into that race in Berlin, I was like, I'm coming off the back of a 1 hour 17. I'm really going to need to be careful in this to, you know, to pace the race right and not make any mistakes. But it's a big confidence booster going forward, and I think it's definitely there with more work and more time. I always used to say to people, sorry, I ramble on a lot, by the way.
No,
It's good.
I always say to people, like, this is definitely like a sport for years. You know, even if you make quite a quick turnaround in the space of 6 months, there's that many different components of fitness with speed, power, strength, endurance, coordination, and all this stuff. Like, to get all of those to level up quite a lot, you know, you're talking a long time in the gym and lots of hours of training. So yeah, it's definitely a sport for years. Everyone's getting faster, more eyes are on the sport, so it'll be more competitive. But I would love to say that one day I could be in the Elite 15, and if the sport grows and there's an Elite 50, for example, I would love to do that also. But it feels pretty cool looking on the app and seeing Danny Ray 29. Even if it was Berlin and even if it was contentious, I ran 58 minutes and I felt like I earned every minute of it from the hours I've been putting in the gym.
100%. And I think if it was that, like, personally, I think if it was that different, then they would have had like 20-30 athletes like sub 60.
Yeah,
you know, like if it was such a big, I understand, like obviously there's benefits, like you said, like you didn't get the dry mouth, you felt like you had a bit of a breeze, but you still can't take away the fact it is a set format and you've worked hard, like, and you've still got that result whatever happens, because every single venue is different. Like every single venue, it's not like they're saying this certain race is the one that you have to go to qualify for the Elite 15. People are qualifying at loads of different races, so why not Berlin? They put it on, they put the, you know, I think, yeah, can't take anything away from like an incredible result.
I think the one factor that reassures me slightly about that race was some of the elite athletes that are up there with Tom Hogan, who put a shift in, and I can't remember the gent's name, but the Portuguese athlete, I believe. Sorry, I might be getting this wrong. I'm just going to confirm my research before I say it on the podcast.
Yeah, no worries. So what did Tom Hogan do? What was
59.59?
Yeah, see, and he's incredible. So yeah, I think you're being too harsh on yourself. Just putting it out there. I think it's an incredible.
Yeah, I'm being too pessimistic, aren't I?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably good because you're like, I don't know, is it in a way you're like, oh yeah, I can do it, so you know you can do it, and then you just need to go and do it in another venue, and then you'll probably believe yourself.
Yeah,
it's like you need a confirmation.
Thiago Luza,
okay,
if I'm pronouncing his name right. Yeah, he came just ahead of me, but he was also an Elite 15 athlete last year. So, you know, I was sat in between two Elite 15s from last year. So that's the only thing that's making me think, okay, all right, change of course, change of equipment, but they were up there as well. So,
and the equipment's going to be the equipment now anyway, so forget that factor.
Yes, exactly
going
that.
forward, that is the equipment that's going to be used, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna get my phone out for this because I was looking this morning on your lovely fiance's Instagram, and just to quote you, I want to quote: 10 days till London Hyrox, can't come soon enough. Although I am utterly terrified about being dragged around by Danny Ray. And then she's put, no, when I actually think about it, I laugh. Like, he's actually going to drag me around. If you see me crying and dying, I apologize in advance. So what's the strategy for London with you two then?
I think the strategy might be Danny doing all the exercises and then Zoe holding on.
Do you know what? I want it to be like, me and Zoe are quite competitive in regards to Zoe wants to do well. So she will do whatever she has to do for us to do well. And if that means that she might not see the ski erg or she might not see the row because it makes sense for me to stay on it, then she would do that. But I also want her to be able to feel like she's added value and participated in that joint effort, because that's what it is. But we know that we've discussed, Zoe knows that on the runs, she can push it to, you know, past her threshold pace, because she's going to get some recovery on, say, the ski erg and rower and other elements, farmer's carry and whatnot. But she's done a lot.
Yeah, that's smart though, because we're hoping, touch wood, to be racing London doubles as well. But I'm coming back from an injury, so we've discussed that if we can race and I'm feeling okay to do it, then that's the way we're going to have to take it as well. I'll really have to push on the runs to try and keep the speed, but hopefully I can then get more recovery and Faye can just suffer a bit more doing the ski and the sleds, so that I can keep that pace up, because it is, you have to work to each other's strengths, don't you? And it's teamwork in doubles after all.
100%, yeah. And you know, there's danger there that we could push it too much on those runs. But yeah, I think ultimately it's going to be a rehearsal for Nice, find out how we work together, what's best suited. But ultimately, we're there for fun, and like we all are, and it's going to be amazing. And for me, watching Zoe compete, there's always eyes on there. People who have gone to the event because they've felt inspired by Zoe to go there, which is the most amazing thing. They come up to me like, "Yeah, we're watching Zoe because, you know, she's here. We're here because Zoe inspired us to be here." So that's amazing. So just being with Zoe racing when I know she's having that kind of influence on people, is going to be fun.
Oh yeah. Sure.
And I want Zoe to, I don't want Zoe to be like, "Oh my God, this is so hard because Danny's dragging me around." I want Zoe to be like, this is fun. This is good.
Yeah.
And do you, because obviously you spend time in the army and up north, do you get time to train together, or is it quite hard to find the time to train together, or do you follow a similar program? And like, how do you do running together? How do you find your paces and things? Or are you just going to go off, like, based maybe off Zoe's like fastest pace, and then you will like work with her? How do you guys fit the training in, I guess, when you're like, you're so busy, both of you?
So Zoe's quite flexible in that she can do her job from anywhere and move around slightly. So we can train together in that regard, albeit we have different coaches. And they're both fantastic coaches within their own rights. And it just so happens, without even them talking to each other, we end up doing similar stuff.
That's cool.
But without fail, every Sunday, every Saturday, we'll train together, and we always have a long run on a Saturday, and we always have conditioning / simulation session on a Sunday. Now, when it comes to running together and making it easy, Zoe is prime offender when it comes to running above her zone 2 pace. She's like, "I feel fine, I'm talking," but I'm like, "Zoe, your heart rate's 170. Let's get that back. let's get it dropped down. I would love to run slow right now. Let's just slow it down, 10-minute miles. Let's have a nice chat, you know, get a coffee on the way." She's like, I feel fine. So yeah, we do train together, and we try to keep it as close to our of where it needs to be in for training easy.
Oh no, that's ace. And your training volume, like you said, has gone up quite a lot since you've started the more specific Hyrox journey and with your coach. And I'm guessing you're probably doing quite a lot of zone 2 work as well. How does that look in the run up to Nice? Are you tapering for London, or are you just continuing your training with Nice as kind of the final goal?
Yeah, exactly that. So My volume actually, interestingly enough, is taking a little increase next week. So I would say for the last few months, I've been at about 9 or 10 hours a week training wise. But now in the lead up to World Champs, after discussion with our coach, we're going to up that to about 12 hours. And that's for two reasons. It's one, just to give me that extra push in the World Champs, because I've got a lot of time to work here and I've got a lot of time to focus on recovery as well. But then also for stuff after the World Champs, I'm looking at doing the Fell Running Challenge, which is going to be, you know, potentially up to 24 hours long. So I need to increase my running volume. So we're going to be hitting about 40 miles a week, but doing it smart. If I feel like if I'm going to be risking an injury that day, then I'll just substitute it for some aerobic conditioning work on the ergs where it's low impact. But yeah, training split is going to be a lot of double training days, about 12 hours a week.
Oh, amazing. Oh, that's exciting about the fell running.
Mm.
Being out in the trails, that's so cool.
Have you heard of the Bob Graham round?
Yeah.
Oh yes. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, so you know earlier on when I spoke about
that's not just a fell race.
Oh, I know.
I think you played that one down.
That is like on the fell running bucket list. But you know when I spoke earlier about mindset and sacrifice and not really putting all, you know, dedicating myself to training with consistency. I had a go at the Bob Graham round about 2 years ago, and proper military mindset towards it. Like, yeah, we'll get around that. You know, we've got the mental resilience. We can navigate. We can use map and compass. But we didn't give that run, the respect it deserved in terms of preparation. So I'm really sort of honing in on that now, with a view of doing it with someone who's from the lakes, who's got really good inside knowledge. We can get a good support team and just give me something different to focus on that's not Hyrox, but will inadvertently benefit Hyrox because it's so much running volume. But Bob Graham round, wow, it is. I remember last time I did it, we got to Honestus Pass at like 22 hours, so we was way too late, and we had some severe shin splints, which meant we couldn't crack on. But 55 miles later, it was still a hard challenge. But yeah, ready to revisit that and give it a good go.
Oh, you'll have to let us know when that is. We'll totally come down and cheer you on and watch you ring that bell.
Yes, I'm discussing with the person I'm going to do it with, but we're thinking sometime end of June / end of July, but it's all revolves around the calendar at work, and at the minute it's looking quite busy.
Yeah.
Oh well. No, fair play. I think if anyone that's just into Hyrox and not into running, like, go and look up the Bob Graham round, because it's not just a running race. It's not like the London Marathon on the trails. It's like, it's an incredible. It's more of it's kind of like a rite to passage in the fell running world, isn't it? If you can complete that round in 24 hours.
Yes.
Is it 24 hours? You got 24 hours to do how many passes? Like, what's the elevation?
It's 44 fells, 66 miles, and about 8,500 meters of elevation.
In the Lake District, isn't it? It starts and finishes in Keswick. So yeah, it's not messing around.
The non-negotiable of that is okay, if I can't make 24, I am finishing it this time.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, there's going to be risk of injury long term. But what an incredible place to go fell run in the Lake District, especially on a good clear day.
Yeah, love it. Absolutely.
Well, fingers crossed for you for a good clear day. No wind, no sleet, no rain. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Faye. When it comes to it, and we'll have all of the
yeah. I know, yeah. Cursed, you know.
Okay, perfect. Taking it back to Hyrox, we wanted to ask you if you've got 3 top tips for our listeners for Hyrox, whether it's a newbie to racing or someone that's been in the sport a little while. Is there 3 things that you follow for either your training or on race day? Yeah,
so race day itself, definitely pace the first few stations, because that's where you can make or break your race. And when I say pace it, if you've got a heart rate watch or just off field, you don't even need to look at your heart rate. If you feel like you're going at a comfortably hard pace, then that's probably the right pace for the whole race. Don't go out too fast like I've done before. I've made that mistake. I would say don't expect to get quick overnight, and just keep doing Hyrox workouts all the time. training for Hyrox, I probably do 1 or 2 max actual Hyrox sessions a week. Everything else is aerobic conditioning, zone 2, engine building, and strength and conditioning. Is that 2?
That's 2. Yeah, that's 2.
Yeah,
That's a good one though, because I do think people go straight in and think Hyrox, I just need to train Hyrox like over and over and repeat the stations over and over, but you get so much more from doing your zone 2, doing your specific strength, and reducing risk of injury as well.
Yeah, and I would say get good at compromised running. So a lot of people say run the rock zone, but I think like that goes without saying. Like as soon as you come off the station, you transition into that run. But that's where you can lose time if you're not au fait with compromised running. So there's plenty of like session ideas out there, but essentially make your legs nice and tired before you go straight into those runs.
Nice and tired. I don't think it's nice.
Horrible.
Yeah,
like I have a lot of sessions where I'm not even hitting Hyrox race pace because my legs are that compromised, and I'm like, oh God, I'm not on it today. But the fact of the matter is I am on it, just my legs are severely compromised. But that carryover into the race day just makes everything feel a bit easier, especially when you train at slightly higher pace.
Yeah, definitely.
Great tips.
Faye, have you got anything else to add before we go on to the cheeky insights?
No, just the only question we haven't really touched on is physical or mental Hyrox. What do you think as you're going through your Hyrox race? Is it just as physical as it is mental, or at some points does the mental side take control? And if you've had a bit of a mental dip, how do you get out of it? I
would say, and this is just me thinking about it quite quickly, I would say it is a very much a 50-50 split, because with the mental side of stuff, you can lose focus. You know, when you're sitting there on the rowing machine, you can easily go from doing, you know, what you should be doing at race pace and dropping 10 seconds of overall of your pacing just by switching off. So I'd say staying focused, looking inwards at how you're actually feeling and performing, and just staying on it in that regard. And then of course you've got like the whole aptitude piece of just, you know, wanting to push yourself to get through it. And then physical, of course, like you can really make or break a race at certain parts. You know, if you go above lactate threshold and your heart rate is, you know, plus 90%, 95%, and then you hit the sleds and then you push the sleds all the way without stopping, then you're going to compromise the next sort of 10-15 minutes of the race, because I've been there and done that. So I would say firmly 50-50 split, physical and mental, for those 2 reasons really.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And have you had any points in a race where you've had to dig really deep, and how do you get yourself out of it? If you have, do you self-talk? Do you break things down into like, you know, each exercise, and or how do you do it? How do you get through a race?
I had a very tough race in Birmingham last year. I did a race. I did an event with work about 3 or 4 days before it, where it was run 4 miles with kit on as fast as you can, and we won that team event. But then I went into Birmingham, you know, severely fatigued. My legs had the worst DOMs in the world, and there's some little clips of it on my Instagram, a little compilation of some of my lowlights, if you like. And that was a day where I set off way too quick. Adrenaline and just the hype got the better of me. I had family there, but there was a point in the race where I couldn't maintain a high intensity. I was walking in the rock zone. I was going over to the water station and throwing water on myself. I knew that the time was nowhere near what I'd got, you know, just a few weeks beforehand. But I definitely had to have a word with myself a few times to push through right to the end, especially on those wall balls.
Oh yeah, the wall balls at the end. It's like you're so close, but you're so far. It's brutal.
Even that little nudge. So Faisal at the weekend, I did 50 unbroken, and then I started breaking them into like 20s, and then I was going to finish off on like 2 sets of 10. But then Faisal came up to me, and he came off the mic obviously, and he was like, "Do not effing drop that ball." So then I ended up finishing with 20, and it's like, if he never told me that, I probably would have dropped the ball. But now next time I do it, I'm like, I don't need to drop the ball because I've done it before, kind of thing. So it is very much mindset when you go and do those wall balls. So you do need to have a word with yourself, or someone have a word with you.
And I think that's an important point, though. Like we've said it a couple of times, if you know that you can do it, why can't you do it again? Like now you know you've done 50 and then you've done 20. So next time it's like you've got that kind of confidence that you can do it, so you can push through. And same with, like, you've done sub 60 now, you've done 58 minutes. So in your head, you're like, well, I've done it before. Why can't I do it again? So the experience of racing definitely plays a part in people's journeys as well, I think.
100%, yeah.
Okay, should we go on to the cheeky insights?
Okay.
So we've got 8 questions for you. First one being, what shoes do you wear to race Hyrox?
All day, every day, the Puma DV8 Nitro 2 Elites.
This isn't getting a popular answer. I think we need to keep a tally, but it's definitely quite a popular shoe.
It's between them and the Saucony ones, yeah.
I had the ones, and then I was thinking, and I was like, oh. So they brought the 2 out, and I was like, that's a game changer. That shoe is upped big time.
Well, it worked. That shoe worked for sure.
Yeah.
And we've talked about venues a little bit, but what is your favorite Hyrox venue?
Berlin, Tempelhof.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt, incredible.
Yeah, I think we need to go. I hope they do it again. I definitely want to go.
I know. I had like so many people have said that as well. I think once everyone saw it, everyone was like, "Damn, should have gone."
Should have gone. I know. Okay, favorite Hyrox station and why?
I'm going to say the ergs, and because they come at really quite important parts of the race. One being at the start when it's quite chaotic and the adrenaline is quite high. It's a good chance to have a bit of a condor moment and just calm everything down. And if you have ran a really fast lap, all is not lost because you can calm everything down on the ski erg. Alternate to that, if you thrash yourself on the ski erg, you can ruin the next part of the race if your heart rate's too high, especially going into those sleds. So ski, and then row again, another good part of the race. You've had all the chaos of sleds and burpees, and then the row is your first opportunity to sit down and again just compose yourself, stay focused, maintain a decent cadence on the row, a decent pace, but just set yourself up nicely for the last business end of things of the race. So the ergs, absolutely.
Yeah, good answer. And what about damper setting for them? Do you change it when you go? I mean, this is a controversial question. I know you don't have to answer, but what?
No, absolutely. I'm laughing. I'm laughing because before I discovered Hyrox, I was a level 10 guy, but for no other reason that's what people do in work. They think level 10. But rowing at level 6, skiing at level 6, no more, no less, every time.
Yeah. Interesting. No, good to know. Okay, next one is, if you could do a doubles Hyrox with anyone in the world, who would it be?
Probably got to be the number 1 guy, Hunter McIntyre, but he just shouted at me. He'd make me feel worthless.
Yeah, I imagine.
That would just be sick, wouldn't it? Watching him in his element, 100%.
I mean, it would be very cool to be that close to like competing together, you know, and see the master.
I've seen him do doubles when it's not gone so well for him with I can't remember the guy's name. He was an elite runner, and Hunter just gave him shit the whole time. So yeah.
So you'll only do it if you're on a good day, so you're not going to get too much abuse.
He doesn't hold back, does he?
No.
Okay, next one. Do you fuel for the race? And if so, what fuel do you use and when?
Yes. So I've got like my daily stuff that I'll keep using whilst I'm in the racing season. So each morning it's creatine, citrulline, beta-alanine, which I found helps. And then actual race day itself. So depending on when I'm racing, I'll carb load a good day beforehand, and then have a big breakfast in the morning, like big amount of carbs, especially if I'm racing at night. If I'm racing in the morning, I'll reduce that right down because I've had carbs the night before, which are already in my system. And then if I'm racing at night, throughout the daytime, because I don't want to like bring on too much, I'll have a few gels just to keep the carbs going, banana and maybe a protein bar or something like that. And I'll always be drinking electrolytes. So I've got my protein bottle here. I'll have hydrate sachets in there. I'd probably say a ratio of water to hydrate would be like 50-50. I'll probably have 1 bottle of water and 1 bottle of hydrate throughout the day. But yeah, that's probably sort of the key components. Depends when you're racing, morning or night, on kind of where I'm getting those carbs on board.
And then during the race, do you take on anything, or are you, I mean, you're doing it quite quickly, so you maybe
When I was in Dublin and I knew that I wasn't a sub 60 person, I had an energy gel, which I would have just as we was approaching the hour to then hopefully set me up for the next part of the race. But if you've carb loaded properly in the lead up to a race, you should be fine for the full duration of the hour. I'm not a nutritionist, but I'm pretty sure that's the gen.
Yeah, perfect. Next one is, what's your favorite type of training session for Hyrox?
Track session.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Track session. Oh, I've been loving the track recently. That's where I feel like I see a more profound improvement is those intense track sessions, because you get to see the improvement over time each week. You're like, 3:30 felt a lot easier today than it did last week. So,
yeah, that's cool. Oh, I love that. And why should someone sign up for their first Hyrox?
Oh, it's just amazing on so many levels. And when I tell people this, I'm like, you get to go to a nice city, whether it's, you know, the other side of the world or in Europe somewhere. You get to race in an amazing venue. There's so many people there, and then you get to enjoy nice food and drink afterwards in a lovely setting. So it's like ticks all the boxes for a nice long weekend away.
Sold.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, win-win, isn't it?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
literally.
And then last question is there anyone that you would love to see on our podcast, or who we could interview that you'd like to know more about?
Ooh. I feel like the England team captain Michael Sambach is a bit of a closed book sometimes with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, don't know much about him, do you?
I've seen him on Hunter's podcast, but yeah, I didn't remember him giving too much away or too much of an insight. I feel like he's someone that would be good to know a bit more about.
Yeah, absolutely. Good suggestion. I don't think we've had that one yet, so yeah, we'll take that. And then lastly, how can everyone follow your journey? Is there anything you want to share with our listeners? What you're up to, where to look for you, all of that jazz.
Yeah, so my Instagram page is @DannyRayHybrid. I made this when I first started doing Hyrox purely just to hold me to account. So I need little things like that which make me want to go to the gym and want to compete. You know, years ago I downloaded Strava, I'd buy a new set of running trainers or a new watch, and @DannyRayHybrid was that. And obviously now it's worked in terms of holding me to account, and it's meant that I have something to look back on. I do it all the time. I know it sounds really bad, but I go back through my videos right to the very start and I see how I got on and how I felt and what I was going through on certain stations and how I looked and how I performed, all that good stuff. So yeah, that is where you'll find me. And with a view of anything after that, I don't know. I talk to Zoe sometimes. I said I could do a vlog of my training week perhaps. But I'm also a bit cautious of letting people in too much, because I love the side of people seeing me whenever I make a little cameo on Zoe's vlog or if I'm training on my Instagram account. But yeah, it's a fine line, especially in this job. It could easily be done. I don't know if it'd be that successful, but yeah, Instagram @DannyRayHybrid for my fitness journey.
Watch this space. Otherwise, we'll keep seeing your face popping up in Zoe's vlogs. That's
coming on the vlog.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much for your time and taking the time out on a busy day. Yeah, everyone should definitely follow your page, because we've been following it from the beginning. And like you said, you can see the progress through your page from the start of your Instagram page all the way through to like the last race you did in Berlin, which I think it's really cool to see. So it must be amazing for you to look back on and actually see your journey. It's quite a nice idea, actually. I feel like more people should do it. Yeah, follow Danny. If you like this episode, please share it. And give us a follow as well at Radchicks on Instagram, and we'll be back soon with the next episode.
Amazing. Thank you very much.